Welcome to the Hawks Talk podcast. All things Blackburn Hawks.
In behind the defence, cuts around, scores! Blackburn Hawks win this game 8 goals to 5.
All the latest news, player interviews and much more.
Shoots, scores!
Hawks Talk.
Joining us on this special fans edition of the Hawks Talk podcast is Hinton Chetwood. How are you, Hinton?
I'm good, thanks. You?
Yeah, I'm not so bad, thank you. We're also joined by Fyske Whitehead. How are you, Fyske?
I'm all right, thank you.
Good stuff. We'll kick things off then. A little bit different because we've had no games for a month. I can see the sad look on both your faces right now. So, Hinton, do you want to tell us how you got into hockey and started your journey of being a Hawks fan?
Yeah, started in 2017. Not really into hockey before then. I've got family. My stepson lives over in Vancouver, so we were visiting him. It must have been this time of year because there were Stanley Cup games on the telly, and Canucks hadn't qualified. But I was watching a few games, waiting to go out, and then sort of started to get a bit of an interest. And when we came back, said to the wife, "Do you fancy going to Blackburn to watch a game? I know there's a team there." Came across. We watched us play Telford Tigers. We got beat 7-1. And the next day, they got thrown out of the game for having an illegal coach on the bench. And we were hooked from there on in. That would have been October 2017. Went to a first away game between Christmas and New Year that year in Sheffield. And yeah, we've been hooked ever since. And it's great. We love going. We love travelling home and away. And it's also, for me, I've started following NHL as well and just love the game now.
Perfect. What about you, Fyske? Tell us about your hockey journey.
So I started following the 21-22 season. It all started around my birthday when at work, because watching it was the Winter Olympics at the time, and I was watching it, and someone at my work just went, "I watch him in Blackburn. Do you fancy coming with me?" I was like, "Oh, okay." Didn't know what to expect. Didn't know what it'd be like. Never been to a game before. And then just the same again, I did not stop coming and watching. I think I've missed 2 home games since. Started travelling away last season. And yeah, just it's my weekends now. So yeah, it's my
Yeah, it's a very addictive sport. So let's move on then. We'll talk about how you think this season's gone. Do you want to kick us off, Fyske? How have you found the season being a Hawks fan?
It's been something else, is what I'm going to start off with. There's been some very amazing moments, some big highs. So looking at the numbers of the game and who's scored what, who's assisted what, looking at the teams that we've faced as well. I went into this season thinking it was going to be it's all to fight for now. And I think I was actually pretty right. I don't think there was a clear winner up until that final weekend. It was very close. Hull had a point to prove. Everybody had a point to prove. And we proved that point very, very well, I believe. Some great match nights, great players. And yeah, we went up and up and up, and it worked out in the end.
What about you, Hinton? What's your opinion on the whole season then as a Hawks fan?
I mean, it's been a bit of a roller coaster at times. I think that's what Fyske just said. Coming into the season, I think there was a general feeling that it was open this year with the team from Scotland moving up the league. So I don't know whether I expected us to win it. I expected us to compete, and we did compete. We put a good showing in the league. We've done well in the cups. We've won a few trophies. We've had those amazing days out in those rinks, winning those trophies. But along with that, particularly in the playoffs, there was some high drama as well. There was real heart in mouths, and I think my watch recorded my heart rate at 120 at some point in that game. It was ridiculous. So yeah, I think it's been a good season. We've had a good team. The lads seem to have gone really well, bonded really well, and really played for each other. It's been good to go down to the rink and watch them play.
I think, like you both said, Solway making that jump up to the national, it's really opened it up, like almost dramatically, like kind of knocked it on its head, really. I kind of thought, from my perspective, I think Billingham would be definitely in the mix because they've consistently got better since COVID. I think I mentioned it on another podcast I was on. After COVID, they rebuilt and a lot of players moved on and did different things, and they focused more on the junior setup, which is something, if we're being honest, we lack at Blackburn at the minute, but it is improving. It is getting better to get that production line of players that you need. And that's what's helped Billingham's journey, because they trusted that youth, gave it a chance, and then they've progressed every season. Now, it'd be interesting to see if Solway didn't take the step up, if the likes of Billingham, Solihull and ourselves, really, if we would have been able to compete with them. Because one area we've improved on massively, I think, is secondary scoring. I don't know what you guys think about that, because in previous seasons, we've relied very heavily on the magic man, Jacob, to step up and get a goal. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, and with the addition of the secondary scoring.
Yeah, I think exactly as you say it there. I think in the last year or two, we've really been reliant on Jacob, and I mean, he's delivered. You can't say he hasn't delivered. He's been fantastic. But to have, Adam Barnes and do what he's done this year, and also to go, we've had scoring throughout the team. It's not just forwards that have been scoring. We've had scoring all the way through the team, and it's been good to see that Jacob can't play at that level he plays at every game, and it's good to have the other guys there to back him up and to pick it up when he's having a bad night.
What about you, Fyske? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I completely agree. It's great to see that you haven't just got that one player that does everything. You've got that team that when you might have them top players, but there is that base on the team that everybody can reach that point, and that's what they've shown, that we're not relying on the same people to pull out these goals out of thin air, or whether they're meticulously done. We're almost working towards that point where you don't actually know who's going to be the one that scores the goal. It could be any of them that are on that ice, and that's the level that the team's at, and believe in them all.
Which of the players that we've brought in this season would you say has stuck out the most for you, or I suppose made the most impact, do you think?
I think Adam Barnes, but perhaps you might expect him to, given his hockey background. Josh Crawley. I think Josh Crawley's been a great find and had a great season and done really well. But I also look at people like Bobby. I think Bobby's brought composure. I don't know if that's the right word, and helped Matty Cross and the young'uns in their game this year as well. So I think it's been across the team. It's not just been those big signings like Adam. I think some of the others have had great seasons as well.
What about you, Fyske?
I think that they've all brought something different, and it's added to that team infrastructure as a whole. And it might not just be on the how many goals they get, how many assists they get. They've all brought that different aspect to the team that is where they actually shine. So it's hard to analyse who's the standout player when they all bring something different, which is what I believe.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we've had some great additions, like you've highlighted them there. Bobby, Josh. Good to see James Royd's back. I'm still convinced he's powered on petrol or something like that. He is a machine, that lad. He just doesn't stop. But we mentioned it earlier again, the difference in calibre of the league this year. Who do you think give us the toughest task this season to face them? Hinton, go on, you go first.
I mean, the obvious choice is probably going to be Billingham, because they've been in the league. You don't win the league without consistency. They've been consistent in the league. But I think going to Solihull is always difficult as well. They always give a good game down there, and they play a hard game down there as well. So it's perhaps obvious to pick those two because they were 1 and 2. But I think Hull as well. Hull have surprised this year. Stepped up. They've certainly at home for those first few months. that they've really shown themselves well.
What about you, Fyske? Who do you think's give us the toughest test this season?
You could have Billingham, or Solihull's been a difficult one. And it's not just looking at those ridiculous scorelines that you could have where you're getting absolutely battered. I thought going up to Whitley has sometimes been going down to the last second of them playing is who you know who's win. But I'd like to say the ones that we've struggled with have all actually been on a pretty even playing field on how we've struggled with them. And actually, by the end of the season, they've actually overcome it, which has been shown in the amount of wins and losses this season. So discovering who those tough teams were and actually understanding that they can do it. And I don't think now, after this, what's gone on, that everyone is back on that level playing field again. And yeah, I think the difficult team one, it could be a number of people, but at the same a number of teams, but at the same time, it might not be any of them.
Fair point. Is there any teams that you think have underachieved this season?
For me, perhaps the obvious one for that is Widnes. I think I would have expected more from Widnes this year. They've had a tough season. Obviously, there's been stuff going on behind the background if you read social media and stuff like that. I think for me, I would have expected more of Widnes. They can play some really good hockey, and in previous years they've played some really good hockey. You know, they've won cups and things in the past. You don't do that being a bad side. I just think they've had a year this year.
Who's been your underachieving team then, Fyske? Putting you on the spot here, sorry.
I would agree on Widnes.
Yeah.
There was a chance for bigger success than what they had. And obviously you don't know everything that's going on, how they train and everything like that. So it's just the way it is. And I thought they could have done more, been a bit more of a challenge, but end of the season and they are where they are.
I think a surprise for me or an underachiever was Whitley. I think everyone at the start of the season, when you see you've got Tony Hand on the bench, I think it turned heads, didn't it? I guess is the best way to describe it. And it's been interesting. They've had a bit of an up and down season, and like Widnes, they've had a few things, if you believe, on social media and different events that have happened. And I just expected them to be more in the mix than they were. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad they weren't, because it might have impacted our league performance and things like that. But I think they were the surprise package for me in terms of underachievers, I guess. Yeah, I'd go with that. Whitley, I think, were the ones for me. Just moving on then. So we talked about it earlier about your most improved player and things like that and who stood out for you this season. If you could bring in a player from another team in this league, who would you bring in and why? Fyske, I saw your face straight away. It sounds like I've got a light shining in both your eyes.
A really hard question.
I've got one in mind, so I'll go first if you want me to.
Go on.
For me, I'd see Yokoyama from Nottingham in a Hawks jersey. Such a talented player.
Yeah.
But annoying. Is that not in a good way annoying? I think he needs that. I think for me, if he could knock that out of his game, it'd be amazing because he's got so much talent. When he first came into the league and he was just on his, playing his game, he was fantastic to watch. And he's developed that edge to him now. I don't know if it's good for his game or not. I mean, who am I to say? But
I think he reminds me of he plays that instigator role very well. He reminds me, if I was to liken him to anybody, probably like a Brad Marchand role. I think that's what he does. Like, because again, he's got the scoring capability and he knows how to wind people up and does it very successfully.
And as Canucks fan, I hate him. Oh, there you go.
Go on, Fyske. If you're wearing the coach's jacket, you've got the clipboard. Who would you bring across?
It's a difficult one because there's so much potential from other teams and other players to suddenly add them into the mix at Blackburn.
Yeah.
I'd probably say Otterson from Solihull.
Yeah.
Be an addition and a half. Good player, numbers are good. And then just seeing how they fit in with the team. That's what they adding people to a team like. See, do they actually fit?
That's a very good point. Otterson would be a good shout. I think he plays that like Swedish style of hockey, I guess. He gets like lost in the offensive zone and it makes him hard to track. And that's how he picks up the points. Obviously playing with the brothers as well. Gets good service. Like we know how capable they are. And he just knows where to be. And they're very system-based, Solihull, I think. If you watch how they play, they're well drilled. So, and he just does that role brilliantly. Like I said, he just gets lost in that zone and it makes him so hard to pick up. And I think it's something we've done all right this season. We've improved defensively massively, I think. So, yeah, I think they're both good shouts. To be fair, I wouldn't mind either of those in a Hawks jersey. So you've both been watching the Hawks for a number of seasons now. As a fan, what would you say has been the biggest improvement or maybe the biggest change? I think is the best question. Do you want to go first, Hinton?
I think the attitude around the whole club seems to have changed, not just on the ice but off the ice. I think the professionalism that we've got around the club, the improvements in cheerleaders, the stuff before the players go onto the ice, the music, the smoke, the lights. You look at the facilities at the club, the changing room. You speak to the players, and they say that they're some of the best, certainly amongst the best at our level, and then some of the other levels. So I think that professionalism that's being brought into the club, it makes it a place where players want to come and play hockey, and that's got to be a good thing.
Yeah.
But it also makes it a place where, as a fan, it's good to go and watch the hockey because you've got the off-ice product that goes with it, and you get in there 30 minutes before the game, and in the old days it'd just be refs would come out and blow the whistle and off they go. Now you've got all that beforehand, which is just nice to see.
Yeah, the match night experience as a whole, I guess, yes, it's massively improved.
Yeah.
What about you, Fyske?
I was going to say the match night experience. It's almost, you get to the game, you go in when the doors open, but that 10 minutes before they come out on the ice, it's like a show. And it does wonders for the fans. It probably does wonders for lads as well. Proves that the fans are behind them. It's professional. And a proper reception for them to come out on the ice before the game. It's a great experience within the fans, the noise that they make throughout the game, everything that we as fans get to see that goes on the ice. But even stuff like after the game, like when you stood there and they all come out and they make sure that the kids are okay, they see the kids. There's trading cards getting signed, pucks getting signed, jerseys getting signed. I don't know how they keep up with it all. But yeah, it's a place that you want to be a fan. There's no struggle behind it. It's almost like you know the players, and you might not know them, but you do. Little kids will go into school the next day and say, "I got my jersey signed by one of the players at the Hawks." And that's the thing that makes them other friends come and do the exact same thing. So improving that fan experience is building the amount of fans that they have. And that is such a big improvement.
Yeah, I think, like Hinton, you've been watching the Hawks a little bit longer, like myself. And I think pre-COVID, this is no disrespect to the previous not owners, but the people that ran the club, there was a disconnect between the club and the fans. I think that's fair to say. I don't think I'm out of order for saying that. And that's improved, hasn't it?
It has. I think when I think of it now, I think I feel as a fan of the club, I feel part of the club as well now because of the stuff that goes on before the game, and perhaps because you go to away games and you get to speak to fans that you don't normally sit with at the rink, and you get to know other people, and I just feel now I'm part of the club, and it's just a great feeling, and I've never had that before, and I've watched loads of different clubs, team sports, whatever, and I've never as a fan, I've never felt that much part of something. And I think these trading cards have been fantastic. I went around to pick something up the other week after the game, and all the kids were there, and they were all so excited. And it's just great to see that you get them involved at that age, and they'll be fans for years and years. We take our grandson, and he's 4 years old, and he sits and cheers for Hawks. And the weeks he can't come with us, the day after, he says, "Did Hawks win?" And it's infectious to him at that age. They get that because he doesn't understand what's going on in the ice, but he understands the atmosphere, he understands the noise, the drums, the cheering. And I think it's becoming a really good package.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that massively. I mentioned it earlier, it's an addictive sport. It's a very addictive sport. And my journey into being a Hawks fan is probably similar to a lot of people my age that still watch. Got the Mighty Ducks films on video, VHS for old schoolers out there. Probably, you might not remember them, Fyske, but it was an old big cassette thing, big chunky black thing. I wore it out actually, and watched that. I'd watch it to the end, rewind it. I had to wait for it to rewind, and then start it again. And my mum, I think it was, got some tickets for her work at the time. Went to the game. I was sat in the car with my dad and my uncle, I think it was. And I remember crying my eyes out because we were going to watch the Hawks, because if you've seen the first Mighty Ducks film, the baddies are the Hawks. And I couldn't, I was about 5 or 6 at the time, maybe a bit older, probably about 6 or 7 maybe. And I just couldn't get my head around why we weren't going to watch the Ducks and we were watching the Hawks. I don't want to watch the Hawks, I want to watch the Ducks. Why are you taking me here? But then after that, I ended up walking out with a jersey that was far too big for me, and never looked back. And it's been a very, very long, enjoyable roller coaster ride, I think, being a Hawks fan. I think even in the past few seasons, it's been a fantastic ride, and it's only going to get better. So let's move on then to something. We gave you some homework, didn't we, prior to this? We asked you to think of one topic that you'd like to talk about. I saw both your faces then. Who am I giving detention to? Do you want to go first, Hinton?
You give me detention. I've struggled because when I think about it, at this time of year, I'm thinking about what's next year going to bring, who's next year going to bring in. But I find in my head at the moment, if I think about where do we need to improve the team, I think I'm doing the players that we've got a disservice, because I think they all deserve to come back. So if I think about the way I'm normally thinking about Hawks at this time of year, I'm not thinking about it like that this year, because I think if they brought the team back that we've got, we've proven this year with the runs we've been on and things like that they can compete. So I almost feel bad thinking we might bring somebody new in, because that means that somebody's got to go out, and I don't want to see anybody go out. So I've sat and thought about this, and I've really struggled to think about, what I want to talk about Hawks right now, other than how excited I am to get back to hockey and get going again next year and see what we can do.
Yeah, no, I think I think people call it a hockey fix, don't they? I guess you need one. We've obviously got GB coming up this weekend, the World Championships. That'll be interesting. It might be painful for the first couple of games. I'm not expecting a win against Canada and teams like that, but it should be a good watch. I think the way the season finishes in this country, I'm also part of another podcast, and we interviewed Todd Kelman, who's the GM of the Cardiff Devils, and he made a good point, and he said that in this country, when we finish hockey for the season, the NHL, like the biggest time of year in hockey globally, is just kicking off, isn't it? So it is a tough time of year. It's a very long time of year when you're waiting for the season to start. That's one thing I'd change, maybe. Run the season, started a little bit later and finish it later. I don't know. What about you, Fyske? What's your one topic you'd like to talk about?
Like the going into next season. Not very
Okay.
now.
Fair enough. So there's been a lot of moments in this season that have stood out. I'm going to put you both on the spot again, as I've done many times on this podcast so far. If you had to pick one moment this season that stood out for you, what would it be and why? You can have some time to think about your answers.
I think I know mine.
Go on.
For me, it would be a weekend, and it would be that weekend when we played the final against Billingham, home and away. Mainly because it's the first silverware I've seen Hawks win, and it was amazing for that. But the whole weekend, the atmosphere in the rink on the Saturday night, the crowd we had in there, the noise, the cheering was just immense. And I think both our lads and Billingham lads were a bit shocked by it, to be fair. But then to go up there the next day and expect perhaps Billingham to come back and fight a bit harder than they did. And for the first 10, 15 minutes they did. They fought hard for that game. And then we scored a few and it just went away from them again. But for me, to see them winning that cup, the first cup that I've seen them win, certainly was just a highlight for me.
I think when we went into that, particularly the away leg after that result at the home game, that result for them was achievable for them to come back.
Absolutely.
Because hockey as a sport, I guess it can change on a flip of a coin, can't it? I mean, you just have one momentum change, I guess, one big hit, one fight, and that's it. I guess it's like they could have really pulled that back. Did you go to that game, Hinton? Did you go away to Billingham?
I did, yeah. I went, and the first 10, 15 minutes maybe they came at us, and Keddy made some great saves and kept us in the game, and then we just found another gear and went away again. And it was just, as a fan, it was great to see and great to be there. Yeah,
that first game was something else, and that away leg in Billingham, they really came at us, and like you said, Keddy did his job, stood tall like he has done all season, and just showed composure, and we won it. It's always nice to win a cup at Billingham. We did it back, I think it was 2012, 2013, when we won our first sort of major silverware. That was away at Billingham in the playoffs. So that's twice we've won a major trophy in that building. So that's always good. What about you, Fyske, then? What moments stood out for you? Because you were at the playoffs as well, weren't you?
Yeah. That final at Sheffield, the whole thing, it felt like one moment. Like, it felt really long at the time, but after it just went really quick. And for me, it's that moment because it started as a low and then kind of went from this really low to being almost on the moon. And it was so stressful as well. That's the thing. It wasn't easy. I was there and I was like, I couldn't breathe at one point. And I felt like I was going to pass out because my heart was going so fast. I'm so glad I had nothing counting my heartbeat. And then those penalties.
Yeah.
I always get nervous for penalties. Doesn't matter whether it's a final game, a normal season game, whatever. Always really nervous. And then, obviously, they were very unlucky with theirs. They missed all three. We were very lucky with ours, all three went in. But it was that moment of when Davies went up and took the first penalty and it went in. And it was like, okay, this has kind of got us on the board for penalties. It it was that very anxious moment of everyone was like really loud and then it went really silent all of a sudden. And then it just erupted. I had my computer in my hands. My computer went up in the air. Thank God I didn't have to pay for a new one. And then they missed another one. We scored. They missed another one. And we scored. And it was just carnage. And it's that family thing behind it. That's the end all of it. The family part behind it. It didn't matter who you were sat with. Everyone was getting hugs. I don't know what some people were doing. I think some people were dancing, some people were partying. They hadn't even pulled out the trophy yet. But it was just something else. And it was because I was sat there with people I don't normally sit with, and it was almost like a different experience because I'm like, I don't normally sit with you, but it's actually been a really good weekend getting to know you and sat with you. And it was just that, it was something else.
I was trying to think the other day who their 3 penalty shots were by. I think it was Grittans, Moss and Greenhall, I think. I can't remember. I was on the edge of my seat. And I think Thomas Brown, arguably the best netminder in this league, if we're being honest. So when you're facing him, particularly for penalty shots, I don't think that was it. Well, it wasn't enjoyable at first. Penalties are a great way to win, but they're horrible to lose. Horrible to lose. And so Davids took our first one, which it didn't. I was a little bit surprised. I knew he'd definitely be in the 3, but I didn't think he'd go first.
No.
And then it was Jacob, and then Barnes, obviously the human highlight reel, I call him. The whole weekend was fantastic, and I suppose rewind back a day back. The Solihull game, that wasn't an easy game either. That was another nerve-wracking game, and just showed massive character. I think I put that on Facebook at the time. Unbelievable character to get past Solihull, because for me, the winner of us and Solihull was the winner of that weekend. I just thought Billingham were in too bad a form going into it, because like we mentioned it earlier, I think they kind of limped to get over the line. Because it came down, like you said, I think it was you, Fyske, came down to that last weekend pretty much, didn't it?
Yeah.
And we were in the mix till the end. Solihull were in the mix till the end. Don't get me wrong, Billingham had a fantastic season, but the form just like nosedived. So I think going into the playoffs, we were the favourites, and always good to win. I'm just trying to I'm waffling because I'm trying to think of my standout moment, and there's 2 that I've got, really. I'm being cheeky, I suppose, being the host I can. When Josh Crowley scored that goal in the League Cup final, I've been watching hockey in Blackburn for a very, very long time. I have never seen a reaction to a goal like that. It was unbelievable. And just amazing. Like I said, never heard a reaction to a goal like that. And for me, that changed the momentum of that game. I think I've spoken to Dom about this on maybe Hawks TV or something like that. But for me, that goal doesn't go in at that time. That's a different game. I think that rocked him. And I'd probably say that's my main standout moment. But just knowing that we've got the best top 6 of forwards in this league, I think, for me, I think that was at the start of the season, seeing the signings come in, seeing the players come back. I think that's probably them 2 of my main moments. I knew that it was going to be a good season from that point on. If I was pushed, I'd have to say the Josh Crawley goal. Unbelievable. And because I was doing the commentary for that game, I didn't have much chance to soak up the atmosphere sort of like before that. But what was it like as the lads were coming out? I couldn't really I couldn't take it in, really.
It was bonkers. Sitting where we sit opposite where they come out, and the noise, they got them things for banging, and it was just ridiculous. I've never been to a sporting event with that atmosphere before. And I don't know if it's because it's an enclosed space and it's not a huge rink, and it was packed. But I think everybody that was there, even the people that have come back just for that game that haven't been before, haven't been since, everybody was behind the team. And it was just bonkers. It made the hair stand up on your arms. It was just electric atmosphere. Fantastic.
What about you, Fyske? Because I think you sit on the opposite side, don't you, to where Hinton sits?
Yeah, I think so.
Next on the penalty box side, don't you?
Yeah.
What was it like for you from there?
It's always something else. And then just hearing all those people behind this team of players, that it was almost like that you have to be there to know what it feels like.
Yeah.
Because people can go on social media and be like, the match night experience was something else. If you're not there, you don't get what it was like. The noise, the screams, not just the noise horns, the screams as they came out, and it was just that moment of appreciation for how far they'd come, and it was just out of this world. It was something else.
So, with you both watching the Hawks for a number of seasons, would you be able to pick a line of players? They don't have to be current players. They can be players that have played for a few seasons. So you've got 3 forwards, 2 defensemen, and a netminder. Like I said, they don't have to be current players. They can be players that we've had in the past, a couple of seasons ago. You can even go back as far as like Bobby Haig and people like that. But you're both actually looking physical pain.
I feel not a lot longer to think about this.
It's okay. Take your time. Take your time.
We're going to have to write this down.
I'm enjoying this. That's probably more than I should.
Oh, yeah.
What you can't see if you're listening to it audibly. Both got drawing boards out and everyone's looking at shots, penalty minutes, time on ice. All the statistics are coming out now.
Okay, I think I've got my offering.
Miles off.
It's all right. Go on, Hinton.
I've picked 2 netties.
Okay.
Alex Oldale, because I think he had a great season with us. Real shame he couldn't come back. I mean, you can't knock him for taking his chance. Said that if he'd have come back, we wouldn't have had the 2 we've had this year. It's been fantastic. But I loved watching Alex last year. I've also put Traps in there because if I don't, the wife will kill me. She's got his picked on a desk and kill me if I don't have Traps in there. She got ever so excited earlier in the year when he was training with him and he was in one of the videos. So I've got to put Traps in. For my D-men, I've gone for Dunks and Streetley. I think a lot of my team perhaps linked back to when I started watching the Hawks and fell in love with the Hawks. Dunks was a coach back then. I just like watching him skate. He just back then he just made it look effortless. And Bobby the same. He's been around the game so long. He just makes it look effortless. And then up front, I've got Jacob, the Magic Man. I've got Kieran Brown, who was playing for us back when we started coming, who obviously has gone on to be a real rising star in the game in the country. And I've gone for Lewis Baldwin as well. Lewis was with us for that season we came back. And to be fair, Lewis's dad is one of the reasons we fell in love with Hawks, because he used to be on the bench at that time. And we started sitting behind the bench and you could hear him shouting at the other players about what he thought of them and stuff. And it just it was a bit of a chuckle at the time. I think that's my line.
Perfect. What about you, Fyske? Do we need to do the countdown?
No, that's awful.
Hard to pick.
It's very hard to pick.
I've gone from a different point of view. I've gone from basically this season and last season.
Okay. Cool.
Because I've looked over their numbers. I had enough time in a day to go through all the history of the team. So in goal, I've got Keddy. I feel like he's had a cracker of a season this year. My 2 defence, I've got Bobby. I think he brings that calmness on the ice.
Yeah.
With what you need. And then Ethan,
Okay.
strong player, decent stats. He's where he needs to be. And then I've got Adam Barnes. Can't go wrong with that. Jacob. Just magic man. You don't need to say anything else. It makes up for himself. And then lastly, I've got Davids.
All right, yeah.
He comes at the game with a different sense of play, and you don't actually know where he's going to be or what he's going to do, which actually is quite good, and it baffles people's heads. So I think that's who I'd go with, and I'm not changing it now, but I might do after.
Davids is like a utility man, I think is the best way to describe him, because some people might not know this, but he's a D-man by trade, if you will. That's the position he's played the majority of his career. I think he's been playing a lot of PP minutes in that sort of defensive role. It'd be interesting to see if he does come back, if he does make the switch to defence. I think that'd be nice to see. But saying that we've got a stacked defence, it's so, like you mentioned earlier, Hinton, it's so hard to pick anyone that you'd change out of our roster, which is a good position to be in as a club and a fan to watch. I don't know. I'll have a go. Oh my God, this is hard.
It starts now.
Oh God, we've got 30 seconds. Netminder, Danny Brittle, probably a bit before you both. Superb netminder, and he was at the club for a long time. He was there when we won our first trophy, and I can't remember how many seasons he was there for, 6 or 7 maybe, I think. But he had this, I don't know, it was almost like a swagger, but it was just very, I don't know, he was a character, and he was a great netminder to watch. Defense, oh God, this is hard. Ollie, I think, has got to be in there, because I have seen that lad on more than one occasion lie on the ice and get shot at, and just nothing fazed him. He stature of a mouse, heart of a lion. Unbelievable player. Never gave up. Chased every puck down. Ollie. Oh, this is hard. It's probably between. No. Oh man. Bobby, I think. I like how he can play that two-way defensive role. He can push up when he wants to. He knows when to do that. He's smart. Got a good hockey IQ. Bobby, I think. Ollie and Bobby at the back, and then forwards. Oh my God, this is hard. Oh my God. Adam Brittle, so there's 2 Brittle brothers. Oh my God, I feel sick. Bobby Haig, one of the reasons I fell in love with the Hawks. A lot of fantastic memories of him growing up. And oh my God. It's between Jacob and Barnesy for me. Oh my God. I think I'd have to go. Oh, God's sake. Nearly swore then. Jacob, I think. Yeah, I'll go with Jacob. I think if I could make a line change very quickly, I'll just change one player to be Barnesy. But I think if I'm pushed into a corner, just because, I'm not explaining myself any further. I feel like I'm under interrogation. I'm sweating. It's hard. It's harder than you think, that, isn't it?
It is, because there's so many great players you can pick from.
Yeah, and for individual reasons as well, and then I suppose you can look at it from the aspect, would they work well together? Because I'm not sure my line would, because Adam and Jacob are very similar. But anyway, you mentioned it earlier, Fyske, about having your laptop when you were watching the game at the playoffs. What's that for? What do you take your laptop to games for?
I'm a bit of a numbers obsessed person, is the best way to put it.
Okay.
Like doing my stats, like knowing what's going on, and that's about it. I'm just a bit of a person that pays to go and watch hockey and then stares at a laptop for half of the time.
What stats is it you take? Is it a particular player or is it the whole team? And what stats do you take?
Bit of everyone, really. Goals, assists, power play goals, short-handed, plus and minus points for every player. Time on ice when I get around to it because it takes an awful long while with just one stopwatch. Analyse my lineups, which obviously doesn't work enough because that was really stressful. To just be able to pick one out of my brain and go, that works really, really well. And then just do it for all personal sake because it's what I enjoy doing.
Nice. I've got another tough question for you both. I mean, they've all been tough. It's like a bad job interview, this, isn't it? It's like a Bush took a trial. What is one thing you would change about hockey in general or in this country?
Could have sent us these questions.
You're going to both unfriend me on Facebook after this, aren't you?
That's really difficult.
It is, because if you change it, it might not be the game that you love now.
Yeah, it's a good point.
But then the things change and they might not make a good or they might make a good benefit, but they might make a bad benefit. Yeah,
that's true. While you two are thinking, I'll give a couple that I think, I guess, or one maybe, is I'd maybe change Div 2. So it was like an under 18s or an under 25s. And maybe take the imports out of that league if you could, and replace that with maybe one or two players that are over that age bracket. Because I suppose in the grand scheme of things, Div 2 and Div 1 are development leagues is the way it's looked at. I'd argue the fact that our league wasn't a development league. I think it's a very good standard now. It's improving all the time. I mean, how close the race for the title's been this year has proved that. But yeah, I think that's the one change I'd make. I'd make Division 2 an under 25s or an under 18s. I can't really decide which would be the right number because there's still a lot of lads that are a little bit older, but then take the imports out and replace it where you can have X amount of players that are over a certain age. I think that's the thing I'd change, I think, if I could make one change.
If I think about hockey in this country, not necessarily at our level, I would like to see perhaps less imports at the top level.
Okay.
You know, if you look at the Storms, your Cardiff, your teams like that, I think it stifles the young British talent. They don't get the chance to perform at that level as early as they could, because you can get the imports to come in and do maybe they do a better job, but I think we might at our level then lose players like Jacob, like Adam. But I think if I look at it from a national perspective, it would be better for the GB team. There'd be more exposure to that level of hockey and things would improve from that way. So I think when I look at hockey in this country, that's the thing that I always think could do with being different.
Yeah. Like you spoke about Alex there, making the jump up from our league to the elite league. Not a lot of players make that jump and stay. And for him to be offered a 2-year contract is a testament to him. And some good coaching by Dom along the way. We put him in the shop window, so to speak. And I think if he'd come back to any team, I think it would be Blackburn if he was to ever drop back down. But I can see him being a staple for a long time because, like you mentioned about GB, our netminders at that level are Jackson Whistle and Ben Barnes. It's who replaces them. And I think Alex, at the age he is and at the level he's playing at, facing shots off elite league forwards, it's only going to improve his game, isn't it, I guess? And you're right, I suppose the end goal should be for everyone to play for GB. That should be the sort of end goal, I guess.
Yep.
If you're not going to make it to the NHL, I mean, like the likes of Liam Kirk, I guess.
But it would increase the chances of there being another Liam Kirk, wouldn't it? If they were getting exposure to that level of hockey in this country at an earlier age.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a good, very, very valid point. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, former Hawk Kieran Brown, the questions asked about him a lot, and making the step up. There's obviously reasons why he hasn't, but if the import rule was to change at that level, then, like you say, it would free up more opportunities, I guess. But it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Like you say, you might lose the likes of Jacob and Barnesy, but with the way our league's improving, and it has a good hockey work-life balance, doesn't it, I guess, at our level?
It does. It exists at its level for a reason, doesn't it? And it does a great job of providing hockey for those players at that level.
Yeah.
But, we've got people like Josh Crawley. Josh Crawley potentially has got a great future in the game in this country. But really, when's he going to get to that level if there's all of these other people coming in front of him?
Yeah. It's a very valid point. What about you, Fyske?
I've gone the other end of it. I'd say that junior programs need improving. You're seeing teams with these brilliant junior programs they're going from every age category, and they're leading them to have better senior teams. And then you're looking at teams that maybe don't have such a great academy or junior program, and they're having to bring younger players in, or they're actually getting to that age in their academy where they don't have a team to play for anymore, and they're going to another team. So you lose potential players at the age of 16 that give them another year in academy, they might be ready for your senior team, to jump straight on a team that you're playing against. And it means that there's those, and especially looking at different teams, and they might not have like an under 18s team, which falls into the under 18s, possibly a bit like the Div 2 thing.
Yeah.
They haven't got that place to play. So there is sessions at pretty much every rink, the like hockey basics and things like that. But unless they go to a rec team, there's nowhere to go for them after that. Because at the moment, your teams, you have to be registered with another team already. And if they can't go and join a team because there's no age category for them, they're almost stuck in this loophole of they have nowhere to go. And it's just that opening that sport up for people, because say you don't want to be travelling an hour and a half to go play for, and some people might do, travelling an hour and a half for an hour's ice time to travel back, to then next year you actually have nowhere to play and things like that. It's just that fixing it all, because if you've got that proper juniors program, you've actually got that full section all the way up to that GB point. Whereas you've got these gaps in the junior programs, they have nowhere to go, and that's where you lose that potential future stars, players and things like that. So yeah, my improvement will be the junior program.
One thing I always liked about Sheffield as a hockey town, I guess, was that they had, first of all, they got a great facility, Sheffield. Probably my favourite away rink in our league now that Dumfries is out the window. But they had it, particularly at the adult level, if you will, they had a team in every competitive league that there was. And to me, that's a true pathway, I guess. I mean, there's obviously changes going on there with the Steel Dogs and the Steelers having the same ownership now, and that's a pathway. But you make a very valid point about the junior system. I mean, I don't know if you've both seen it on Facebook recently about Leeds. They're expressing to come in to our league in particular because they've got a very, I suppose, almost oversubscribed junior system from what I hear. So that's giving them a facility and a way to play hockey at a higher level, because there's a big jump in terms of being an under 18 to playing in the National League. I mean, there's players that can do it. Don't get me wrong. Your likes of Reece Edwards and people like that. And I think Josh could play at that level. If I'm being honest, I think he could play at the National League level. I mean, I suppose how quickly he's going to make that jump up, we can only wait and see, I guess. But I think Leeds, that to go back to your point, Fisk, I think Leeds are doing that right, I guess, aren't they? Because they've got a big academy and they're adding more teams in order to do that. D-side are doing that as well, I believe. They've shown intention to bring a Div 2 team in. So do you think it'd be nice to see a Div 2 team for Blackburn at some point? I suppose we'd have to have the players and the academy structure to do that, but is that something you'd like to see?
I think it would be a good step in the right direction, but your issue looking at Blackburn Academy is it doesn't go all the way up.
Yeah, true.
So, yeah, you have to fix the academy before you look at other leagues. That's where you come to that standstill of there's nothing you can do until you fix step one.
Yeah.
No good putting a Div 2 team together and not actually having the players for it or having to bring the players in from somewhere else. But like Leeds, they have the players from their academy. There's just the hope now that they're going to use them academy kids and not take players from elsewhere.
What's your opinion on that, Hinton, about Leeds bringing a team into our league?
I mean, it's more competition in the league. It's got to be great, hasn't it? More teams to play, something different. Some concerns about maybe whether some of our players who live more that way might want to go that way and play, but if they do, they do. I think it can only be good in the long run for the league. Obviously, it's going to be good for Leeds. Not either way about that, if I'm honest. I think thinking about whether we should have a Div 2 team, I mean, I think it would be good. It gives you the chance to get those homegrown players. You know, I look at our team and look at Ronnie Graham. He's a homegrown player, isn't he? He's come through the ranks, and it's always good to have some of those in your team, I think. But I think it's got to be done the right way. I think, you know, it's not something that we can go into, and we used to have a team at that level, didn't we? And they used to get beat up every week, didn't they? It was literally men against boys when we went to watch them a few times against Widnes.
Yeah.
But I think if we're going to do it, it's got to be done right.
I think they had that one good couple of seasons, I think, didn't they, the Eagles, before they disbanded. I think they won the Ladle, but then that was the end of them. I think with the Leeds thing, my take on it is, I mean, this is only speculation because they've only shown an expression to come into our league and interest or whatever you call it. I just think, again, this is my views, not the Hawks' views or anything like that. I think you should be made to go into Div 2 for one season, for two reasons, really. One, to prove that you can fulfill all your fixtures and you've got the players to be able to do that, because no one likes to see points getting taken off people and games not fulfilled. As a fan, you want to go to every home game you can, every away game you can, can't you? So being able to fulfill your fixtures is important. And I guess to prove ultimately in this day and age that you're financially sustainable.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. Ice hockey is arguably the most expensive team sport to play in this country. I'd probably say equipment, ice time, travel alone. I mean, like with yourself, Hinton, you've been to Vancouver a number of times. How many ice rinks do you see over there?
Loads. In Vancouver City, loads.
And it's like our nearest one, it's Manchester, but then and Widnes, but there's still big gaps between all the different teams and things. Still a lot of traveling involved.
Yeah.
So the financial side of it, that's a big factor for me. But like you say, having 10 teams in the league would be good. Brings competition. Personally, I'm not overly worried about players leaving. Like you both mentioned, we've built a product where people want to play here. They want to come here. The dressing room, I don't know if you've been in it and seen it, or I know some fans have done the photo opportunity recently. I've been in a few Elite League dressing rooms, and it's miles better than a lot of those facilities. I mean, obviously, you like Sheffield, Nottingham, Belfast, Cardiff, and they're a different kettle of fish, but it's a fantastic thing. And if you bring that environment for people to play in and be happy and be comfortable in, I'm not overly worried about players leaving. I don't think we've a chance of winning the league next year if we keep the majority of our roster. So I'm not overly worried about it. Really not. I'll probably shoot myself in the foot, and I'll probably get clipped after this at the start of next season or the end of it when we've no players. But I just think it'd be good. It'd be nice to see, but I do think that they should go into Div 2 first. But I guess that's it. That's my take on it. That's me getting binned off this podcast. So one final question then before we let you both go. I think I'm pretty confident I know the answer to this from both of you, but will you be coming back to the Nest as fans next season?
Absolutely.
What about you, Fyske? Are you coming back?
Absolutely, yeah.
Perfect. Actually, just one more thing before we go. Fyske, is it your mum that does the Hawks in the community?
Yeah.
What are they going to be doing over the summer then?
Lots of different challenges for the kids for different activities relating to the Hawks, different competitions, things like that, just to keep everyone engaged in the off season and give new people a chance to get involved and see what goes on at the club.
Perfect. Looking forward to that. Right. Well, I'll let you both go. Enjoy your summer off. Hopefully, it's not too long. And we'll have you back on the podcast near the season starting. I think it's been good tonight. It's been good to have some fans on the podcast. That's what it's about. So brilliant. So we'll see you at the start of next season then. Take care.
Thanks. See you guys.
Hawks Talk.